Hey y'all, hey, it's Wednesday. So yeah, it's time for our Wednesday word, some Wednesday wisdom with Dr. Escobar Mental Coach. And today I want to talk about the art of diplomacy. So now when we talk about diplomacy, we're talking about savoir faire, some other terms that kind of go along with it, but essentially it's about how you communicate. And it's not just in what you say. Okay, it's in how you say what you say, even in your body language, even with the decisions you make, what you are not saying. All of that plays a key role, a key factor in diplomacy. And so diplomacy also factors in a lot of different elements. You're not just thinking about you. You're thinking about everybody that's impacted by the decision, by what you're communicating. And so you figure out the best way possible to communicate it, but also make sure you get your message across and you get buy-in. See, the art of diplomacy, the whole goal is to get people to buy into what you're saying. So that's why, we see politics it's real big, of course, in politics and government affairs and different stuff. Hey, Spot. Hey, Ahmad. What's up? What's going on? How's Germany treating you? Miss you. So it's you see it a lot, of course, in politics and stuff. You see it also in corporate America. The whole goal of diplomacy is to get people to buy into what you're push into your agenda. And listen, the people who are the most diplomatic, the most charismatic, who can get it done, who can get their message across, they win. If you research diplomacy, anything like that, I can tell you one name that's going to come up, and that's Winston Churchill, Sir Winston Churchill. He was just kind of like the authoritative figure on diplomacy when it came to diplomacy. I actually read a book by him when he talked about the art of diplomacy and just a lot of different things. And it all boiled down to communication. He just kept talking about communication and how it's just critical to be able to communicate. And again, it was just how you say what you say and being able to get your message across without pissing people off, basically offending people, but driving your point home. You can drive your point home. Hi. You can drive your point home without being a jerk, without being, without alienating people. You're not going to please everybody with what you say all the time. That's just not realistic because we're all different people. We're all unique. It's just not realistic to think that when you communicate, everybody gonna like what you say, because that is not the truth. That's just not reality. That's not life. But you can say what you need to say, get your point across. You can be just as passionate about it and still get buy-in. It's all about charisma. If you want to be, somebody that can really engage audiences, really, really get people behind you and what you have to say and what you want to do, listen, become a conversationalist. Understand the art of diplomacy when it comes to being charismatic in your speech. And I a couple weeks ago, I did something. I talked about not confusing passion with pain. A lot of times when people speak, especially if it's something they're passionate about, oh my God, sometimes you hear the pain point. And there's nothing wrong with turning your pain into passion. It's when that pain speaks more than your passion that you lose people. And that's where you really need to learn the art of diplomacy and knowing how to say what you need to say to get people to buy in. I use the example of, I think it is David Banner. That's been, or it's somebody. I don't know. It's not David Banner, but there's a gentleman that's been trying to raise money for this boys' school. for years, like for years. And it's not like he doesn't have a good idea, a good concept. His intentions are well, but because of how he communicates, it's so militant, it's so aggressive that he can't get the financial support and backing that he needs to get this school started. And so you have to know how to draw that line when it comes to diplomacy and saying what you need to say to get that buy-in. That's the art of diplomacy. Saying it in a way that you communicate the passion, you communicate your position, and you get the buy-in. Again, everybody's not gonna like what you have to say. Everybody's not gonna be pleased with it. People are going to have, their point of view about it, but it's not about pleasing everybody. It's about getting your voice out there, getting your message heard. If you want to understand what it is to be, the art of diplomacy, and really just communicate, go out there and just research charismatic speeches. And I ain't talking about the feel good ones. I'm not talking about just the leaders that you like. I'm not talking about just like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., Martin Luther. I'm talking about from the 1500s, Martin Luther. I'm not talking about, Nelson Mandela. I'm not talking about all those feel good ones. I'm talking about even the ones that, did some horrific things. Hitler, you don't have to like it. He was awful. The things that he did was awful. But guess what? He was charismatic and he had a movement and people got behind it. It's happening today. And there are some people who are not very diplomatic. Hitler was not very diplomatic, but he was very charismatic, and he was able to communicate his message across a group of people that got behind what he was doing. But again, you really want to look at the art of diplomacy, I encourage you to look up Sir Winston Churchill. Again, he was just like the authoritative figure on it, but it really boils down to charisma and communicating, and understanding that, again, everybody's not going to like it, but the best charismatic leaders, speakers, some of them are able to rally people behind their cause. And, that's it. And the other piece to diplomacy is this. Again, you're thinking about the whole. What's the best solution for everybody at this point? And so that's my little bit, my Wednesday word for today is the art of diplomacy, learning how to communicate. It's not always what you have to say, it's how you say what you say, because sometimes people need to hear the hard truth. Sometimes people need to hear things that they don't want to hear, but they need to hear. That's not a bad thing, but it's learning how to say it in a way that it's palatable, that people can digest it. So that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in with me. I'm Dr. Ace, Global Mentor Coach, and I just want to encourage you to stay positive, fill your life with lots of love and light. There's plenty of things out here online to keep you encouraged, keep you motivated. There is hope. Please don't feel like it's hopeless. This is not a hopeless situation. This too will pass. It's just a bump in the road. Have a great day.